Welcome everyone to another episode of the Old Timers Comic Book Show. I am your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and as always, my partners in old timing.
Buenos dias.
How are you doing, Johnny?
We have the Professor of the Things Crusader, Bud 13th. So good to see you both. Been a bit of a wild couple of weeks, but how are you both?
Doing very, very well. Doing very, very well.
With the Yankees 2 games back, have you cancelled your MLB subscription yet, 13?
Nope. Not after a no-hitter.
Oh, did they just get a no-hitter?
Yes, this week.
Who were they playing?
Corey Kluber.
Who?
Corey Kluber.
Yeah, but who were they facing? Sorry.
I forgot already.
To be fair, there's been like 14 no-hitters already this season.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, them's fighting words.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm just hoping the Red Sox get one so that we can have all our furniture for free. From Jordan's Furniture is running a special, so
It's so funny. I was on holiday vacation a few years back, and the Boston Red Sox had this thing going on with Papa John's Pizza. If you hit a home run, and then you said the code, you get your free pizza, right? So I'm at this vacation spot in the UK, and there's a Papa John's on site. So I rock up. I said, "Right, my free pizza, please." Right, what are you talking about? I said, "Hey, we hit a home run last night. This is the code. Where's my pizza?" It took them like an hour to come back and say, "That's only available in the US, guys." I'm like, "No kidding."
Oh, damn it!
So no free pizza for me that night. All right, enough baseball. Back on to comics. So, as you might have seen on the old Twitter feed, we practice what we preach. Here we have the reader copies. Does everyone know what I mean by reader copies?
It means that they are meant to be read, not slabbed and kept as keepsakes.
Perfectamundo. So here we have a Mike Zeck 10 Nights of the Beast cover. This is Batman 420. We were talking about Mike Zeck last time with his Craven the Last Hunt and the Faithful Symmetry.
We did.
We did. And I also managed to pick up one of these. Look at that. That's the Incredible Hulk 300, which we talked about in our specialist issue episode.
Yeah. An oldie but a goodie.
A goodie. And tell you how oldie and goodie this. This is from originally ticketed at Books and Comics in Middlesbrough, which no longer exists anymore. It was the princely sum of 50 whole English pence. There you go. Cool. So, what we're going to do?
What does 50 pence convert to in English dollars?
Into US dollars.
$13.
I don't know. What do you get? 1.25 or something? So it's like 35 cents, maybe. No, 75 cents. 75 cents.
Wow, you got that for a steal, even in English money.
Well, here's the thing. What we're going to do is that I am going to send these two issues I'm going to draft up a certificate with our Old Timers logo on there. I'm going to sign it saying, "Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Old Timers Comic Book Show." I'm going to sign it. I'm going to send the certificate with these two comic books across the states to the Professor and to the 30th Crusader, who will then sign it in turn. And of course, they will be sent to a random person selected from anybody that retweets or comments this show on Wednesday when it goes live.
Wow. Okay.
You think think people appreciate that?
Yeah.
Practice. Yeah. So
can I read those when they come in and then sign?
Yeah. We'll put a little we'll put a little thing at the bottom saying these have been read by. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. You now own the fingerprints of the Professor. Well done.
Just saying. They're reader copies. I'd like to read them.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. So yeah, also just for collectors' sakes, I'll say that this 420 is the last issue, and the ending of the 10 Nights of the Beast. Whoa, what a dozy ending that is. A good ending. 13,
I'll tell you what else was the Night of the Beast.
Yeah, do you remember how it ends?
The night ended.
Spoil it. Where was that mute button we were talking about before? I just can't seem to find that. You were going to say something?
No, yeah, I'll even throw in some Mylar plastic, a little upgrade on the backboard and what have you.
Oh, I'll send it with a backboard. I'm not like a complete, We do have backboards here in the UK. Don't worry, I'm going to send it. No, it's not going to come with a free. I'm not. Hey, the Books and Comics price ticket on the bag is worth something, Well, £50 apparently. All right, enough twaddle. Enough twaddle. This has been primed as a clash of the Titans, so to speak. We're talking about two major series back from the 80s, which were pretty much outselling absolutely everything. Okay, so we're talking about on one side, the Uncanny X-Men, and on the other side, the new Teen Titans. Okay, cool. We'll start with the X-Men, I think, first. Professor,
Sure.
Thoughts on the X-Men as a whole?
Of course, everybody knows that when Lee and Kirby created the X-Men, they didn't really have the stellar launch that people might actually think.
Mm-hmm.
The original lineup, Beast, Angel, Iceman, Marvel Girl, Cyclops, they didn't really sell that well. And, after several years, they went mainly into reprints, canceled with issue 66, and then just reprinted old stuff for the next few years until the powers that be decide to bring them back, and Len Wein and Dave Cockrum created a brand new team of largely brand new characters, and created what we have, really the foundation of what we have now. The biggest thing that I can say about maybe the Uncanny X-Men for the 1975 creation that was ahead of its time was the diversity of the characters, and that really kind of set the trend for things to come. But it set the trend for X-Men for a long, long time, where they were the team. So Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler. Every character was from a different country. And I think that was not copied until the Teen Titans, I think.
Cool. All right. So 13th, if I remember serves right, you own Giant Size X-Men 94?
I own the Giant Size X-Men 1 where the new X-Men appeared, yes, and then where the story, the main run picked up again with actual new stories and continuity. 94 and up.
Yeah, cool.
And all of those books right there are extremely expensive right now.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go into prices for these books, which I know I normally give like a shout out to the prices.
Sure.
The thing is, when it comes to those early X books, they are absolutely staggering in price. Good reason, such good quality. For me, the best way to read them, if you can still get hold of them, and these are quite expensive in a way, is the Marvel Masterworks hardback books. It's printed on nice glossy paper. They're like gold, like a tablet type style book. Open up, lovely glossy paper, lovely bright colors, and that's probably for me one of the better ways to read that era of X-Men. Most affordable.
I was going to say, but like you said, those books are still expensive too. If you can find them, because they're out of print, right? Most of them.
Definitely. If you want to go cheapskate, which is fine, you can get the Essential X-Men books from Marvel. They're about year big, and the black and whites. So you get what you get. I have a couple of DC ones downstairs. So.
Those are the ones you get for just to read the stories.
Yeah, the reader copies, definitely.
For sure.
All right, okay, so we're going to focus, because it's the X-Men. The X-Men have had so many great stories. Days of Future Past. Now my mind's gone blank. The whole Nimrod stuff, the stuff when they're out in the outback. The whole
Mutant Massacre was
Mutant
one of them.
Massacre, Fall of the Mutants.
Trial of Magneto.
The Brood. Which is an alien knockoff. What we're going to start with, though, we're going to start off, I think we're going to talk about one of the series or one of the runs that were probably the one that reset the balance. Yeah, X-Men have been popular up to this point, but this is the one that kind of absolutely made them as they are. We're going to talk about the Dark Phoenix Saga. And the one I'm going to start off with isn't the start of the series. I'm going to miss one out, and I'm going to go with this book. There you go. This is Uncanny X-Men 130. Now, the whole Dark Phoenix Saga, shout out to the creators on this. It was written by Chris Claremont, who had been on he'd taken over the book after Len Wein had left. He was then on the book for something like 18 years. And then art by John Byrne, who's synonymous with Marvel at the time. Inks by Terry Austin, letters by Tom Orzechowski, and colors by Glennis Wing. You're laughing because I got the name right?
You were close, yeah. Really close.
All right.
But Tom Orzechowski was the X-Men letterer. I think he worked exclusively for Chris Claremont because he did all of Chris Claremont's lettering for many years.
Cool. Right. So, Professor, Dark Phoenix Saga, set the scene for us.
Well, let's see. I mean, so really, the Dark Phoenix Saga, the scene setting stuff happened the previous couple of years of books when in issue 99 and 100 and 101 was when they first went out into space and Jean saved everybody at what apparently was the cost of her own life to kind of telekinetically pilot the space shuttle down into the bay, and you see an issue, I believe it's issue 101, where she comes out of the water as Phoenix, fully formed costume.
That is my favorite X-Men cover of all time,
and it's iconic, right? That first appearance of her costume, like. Where did it come from? It was instantly grabbed everybody. So shout out to Dave Cockrum for that, like the creations of so many great character models for that, because they all had a unique look. And then of course later on when you could talk about when Lilandra shows up and the Shi'ar and they all of a sudden they're off into space, and no one, we had the Kree Skrull War 10 years previously, but no one really had been doing cosmic for a while. You had Captain Marvel, but he was kind of always on Earth,
Yeah.
It was
like Doctor Who travels through time and space in London, present day.
And you had Thanos and Warlock from a couple of years previously, but you always had, there was always mostly not really high space saga science fiction. And here, where you have all of a sudden the X-Men out of their element, right? They show up in the Shi'ar throne world, and now they're going to fight Emperor Deakin, and they have the Macran crystal. All of this huge, this stuff that Chris Claremont was just pouring out of his head, the creativity that was in that moment, and the Starjammers, and all of a sudden they introduce Corsair, who is Cyclops' dad, and that was spoiler alert. That's a 45-year-old spoiler, but sorry about that, guys. But but when you first read it, it was blowing everybody's mind. And
you know how I feel about the cosmic stuff. I think the cosmic stuff out, that ran the risk. And again, I bought this as a Marvel Masterwork. It ran the risk of losing me then, the X-Men, because I'm not a big cosmic guy.
But so let me just finish. The thing that grounded that story, even though they were in deep space, were that these characters were still so new, and you were still learning so much about these characters. Almost every issue, you were learning something new. Just in the first issue of the Starjammers, where Nightcrawler still can only teleport himself. He teleports someone else for the very first time in that issue. And when you think about how much history has passed since then, to learn about that, and then a couple of issues before that was when Storm, we found out she was claustrophobic, and that's where I think that these characters become almost real to me for a while, because it gives them these weaknesses, it gives them these vulnerabilities, and you feel like you know them. So by the time they had gone into space, I was so interested in finding out more about them, but I was also worried, right? I was also like, I cared about the characters. I can't tell you the last time I could tell you that I cared about a character in a book that's coming out right now. You know, I mean, the stories don't really make you care anymore. This one, I was all in. You know, I wanted to know what happened next. I was invested in the characters. I didn't want anything to happen to them. And of course, with that Dark Phoenix saga, what happens later was devastating. You know?
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. Get
there.
Yeah. So, 13th, what do you think? Dark Phoenix Saga, is it one of the best?
It absolutely is. So last show we spoke about a couple of storylines, you know, with Kraven's Last Hunt and whatnot, that we were not shy about saying it's one of the greatest of all time and it's legendary. I believe that this also belongs in there, not just the Dark Phoenix Saga, but also the Phoenix Saga, right? So Claremont was there beginning to end, and for many, many years thereafter. But, you know, we can't ignore Dave Cockrum's contributions to the new X-Men. And neither can we ignore John Byrne's work with picking things up related to the Phoenix and then seeing it come to an end eventually. So I look at this whole era of X-Men, you know, from the introduction of Wolverine, the introduction of the new X-Men, throwing that whole group together. It was an experiment. You guys were asking for a pun earlier. There you go. But no one ever knew how successful.
You have exceeded my expectations.
Excellent. So, you know, it was still new, right? Everything was new. You got new characters. It was kind of like a whole new promo. Hey, X-Men are back, but wait a minute. It's not the same typical people you would expect. And how are we going to make this work? You know, everybody has different pieces of history, what their powers are, how are they going to mesh together. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Any writer and artist that are part of a project where they're dealing with multiple characters in this era, it was kind of a thing where you can create a character, but sometimes infusing that personality, it was difficult, never mind infusing personalities, plural. And who's going to shine? When are they going to come out? Is this a cameo? Is this going to be a 2-page thing? So all the little pieces that were put together, I believe, make it legendary. And these stories, and again, Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix Saga, have been mined to death when you fast forward to today. So is it legendary? Absolutely.
Okay. So for me, I totally agree with you on this. This isn't one of these books that you can, this series of books you can't knock. The art is gorgeous all the way through. There is nary a wasted panel at all. Dialogue heavy, yes, because it's Marvel of the time. And
it's Chris Claremont.
And Chris Claremont, yeah. He has his Chris sticks, you know, he's got everybody who kind of explains everything in thought bubbles. But that said, the pace of the art. I mean, I picked this issue here. This is kind of after they've attacked the Hellfire Club, and it's going to be Pete Tong. But this is John Byrne doing Wolverine. Now, just look at that top panel here where he's jumping on the goons. That pose of Wolverine has been done to death from everyone up to and past Jim Lee. This is Wolverine at his best.
Is such attention to detail in this is just insane. And like you said, no wasted panels. There's hardly ever like a single shot with no background. There's always background, you know, and it's just nuts.
The thing that strikes me is how cohesive the whole story is. Yes, I'm going to say this now, and this might sound absolutely ludicrous. Chris Claremont is an absolute writing guru. Absolutely. But he's not without homage. All right. So the whole Hellfire Club and the Black Queen originally comes from the Avengers TV show, which is a British thing. Right. And I think it's season 4, and the episode's called A Touch of Brimstone. Season 4, episode 21, A Touch of Brimstone. Go check it out. Emma Peel ends up in a black corset at the Hellfire Club with a collar on and a hair up like this. The Brood is aliens. No two ways about it. So, what is it to say? Good writers imitate. Is that what they say? So you get it, but the whole idea behind the way that they kind of use illusions to entrap the Phoenix power, it's such a huge storyline. It works so well. The artwork's great. I don't know if any of the characters have ever looked as good. Maybe I could be arguing. I don't know. Let's see. As the story progressed, what did you think? Because obviously we don't know what's happening, right? It's like they get captured by the Hellfire Club. Then what happens? You know, the court, they get out, and of course Jean goes, to use a phrase, bonkers.
Well, yeah, I think when you think about the focus of the Phoenix Force, I kind of think the story maybe dragged a little bit in the middle until it really ramped up towards the end, and I think the ending took fandom by surprise. I didn't think that anyone would think that they would have actually killed Dark Phoenix off, or they would have fixed her right by the end of it. I don't think anybody expected her to die. And
there was controversy over that, wasn't there?
There was actually 2 endings created for the final issue. The other ending is out there somewhere. We don't have it, I'm sure. But the other ending, the artwork was created for the other ending. But the powers that be came down on Claremont and Byrne. I think Claremont was the one I think that didn't want to kill her off, and I believe it was Jim Shooter, and I'm maybe I'm putting words in people's mouths, but the word that came down was that you can't have her kill a galaxy and not have
pay the price.
Pay the price. So that was what happened, and I think like later on, several years down the road, when they do bring Jean Grey back, it's John Byrne that brings her back, correct?
Yeah, John Byrne brings her back. Roger Stern, the story goes that Roger Stern, the editor at Marvel, had kind of been given some sort of fan story in which they managed to argue that the Phoenix, the Jean Grey that came out of the Hudson River, was actually a copy of Jean Grey's psyche, but melded to the Phoenix Force. So when Jean was killed in the Dark Phoenix story, it was the Phoenix Force that got killed. Jean lay safe in a cocoon at the bottom of the Hudson. Yeah. Eventually, that coma starts to deteriorate, and I think you'd have to double check on this, but I think it's Fantastic Four 266.
Close enough.
That the Avengers go to investigate, and Jean Grey comes out, and that then leads into an Avengers book, and it also leads into X Factor #1, Volume 1.
Yeah.
Well, one of the challenges too that for those that followed the X-Men religiously, right at this time, when you see Phoenix come out of the Hudson in issue 101, all the way through until the late 130s, where she commits suicide. Remember what we said at the last show. When you write a story, are you going to write yourself into a corner?
Yeah.
Meaning that, the Phoenix at first was a manifestation and something that no one could understand, because the X-Men never really experienced anything cosmic, never mind what else was going on within all the titles, right? So now through time, it's, you see the Phoenix gradually with more power, more and more power. Like, how powerful is she going to get? So how can you write something like that? Because that's clearly going to overshadow all the other characters that are in the book. Never mind just the challenges for the Phoenix.
Perfect. Great shout. And this series also gets to see Chris Claremont plan for longevity. The picture I've got up here is Senator Kelly. Now, Senator Kelly is going to start the whole Mutant Registration Act, which causes a lot of problems circa X-Men 180 through 220, I think it is, something along those lines. So he's planning all the way to kind of use these characters. And it's interesting you talk about how this series has been mined from other people or for other things, because there's a cover. Let me just see if I can find it. 2 seconds, because I did have it just ready to go. That is absolutely no, that's not it. Have I got it? Have I got the, yes, I have. Whew. Whew. Good. So this cover has been mined a million times, and I often thought, every time I see this cover, I think of Crisis, but I shouldn't think of Crisis because this came first.
Yeah.
13th, you agree?
Yep.
What am I talking about when I talk about Crisis then, 13th? Educate us.
The death of Kara Zor-El.
Yeah, the Supergirl. You know, it stood in very similar poses here to Cyclops and Phoenix.
The difference with the Crisis cover, where there were many, many more heroes behind it. Superman.
Well, that was George Perez's specialty.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about Perez in a little bit. All right. Excellent. Okay. So this book, this series of books, for me, pretty much is one of the high points of the X-Men. It kind of, the X-Men for me peaks and troughs quite rapidly. I think when Byrne leaves, I know Cochran comes on again for a little bit. It doesn't have the same style. And then Paul Smith comes on, and then eventually Mark Silvestri.
Yeah.
And then everybody's, and John Romita Jr. is in there as well in the mix. And eventually people kind of, they're in Australia, they don't have a mission anymore. And I quite like that. I quite like how they changed it up a little bit. But then eventually they get back to the mansion and it's just reset button after reset button after reset button. And I know I suppose that's the burr of comic books as a whole. But for me, I think the Dark Phoenix saga will always stand aside from that.
Yeah, I think so. Claremont over time gets weighed down by his own continuity, I think, and but I think that this is so early, that he's only a couple of years into his run here, and just can you imagine 2 years into your run and you write the best story you're ever going to write for X-Men, and then you're on the book for another 15 years
trying to catch up,
to recreate what you did,
I think it's a thing too, right? Because it was so successful that it could not help but draw criticism even way later on, where there was always a running joke, at least in my comic shop, where which X-Men is going to get Phoenixed, meaning that you're going to get killed and come back. And don't worry, when the Phoenix power comes back, it'll get shared around. So, you just take that and brush it aside, I guess, if you want. But that is the talk sometimes, unfortunately, with the Phoenix Saga. But in a way, I just look at it as an ultimate compliment because it's on everybody's mind. And that's how good the story was. And that's why it gets mined to death.
And I think so. I think the resurrection of Jean Grey did create some controversy, especially in the creator circles, right? Because it was the creator, even in the creators held up the Dark Phoenix Saga as this is what every comic should be, and there are a lot of creators that were mad because Jean Grey got brought back, and they think that it kind of maybe kind of brought the quality of the original story down a little bit.
It's so mainstream, this whole coming back from the death. Yeah. I've just read Comic Crusaders. The review's up now, so go check it out. It's Heroes Reborn, Magneto and the Mutant Force. And in this, because it's the Heroes Reborn storyline, Charles Xavier is dead. You had to try and resurrect him and rescue him towards the end of the book. It's like, have we not learned anything in the last 40 years that we have to go back to the resurrection of characters?
Death is a joke in the current X-Men books right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
with that.
So, we won't go down that rabbit hole because this is the old-timers comic.
Yeah. where death means come back in 12
dead
issues.
Means dead.
Dead means comes back in 12 issues, not 12 panels.
Right, yeah.
No exceptions.
Right, okay. So, that's the X-Men kind of talked about for a little bit. There was only one book that DC were putting out back then that could challenge the X-Men and how people thought of them. Whilst you scratch your heads and have a think about it and see which one it is, hashtag it's not Batman. Here's one of the ads for one of our other shows. Enjoy. I hope that advert plays as loud for you as it does in my headphones, because I listen to the advert, I come back with a headache. It's like,
oh, it's
whoa.
really loud, but I like it.
Oh, yeah.
We like that one. All right. Which book was it that challenged the Uncanny X-Men in the 80s to be the best dynamic team book in comicdom? Any takers on this?
I just want to say that this book did more to get me to read more DC books than any other book.
All right.
Now,
Okay.
I was reading Batman, I was reading Superman, but when I got my hands on Teen Titans, oops, I spilled it. I spilled the beans. when I got when I got my hands on this book.
There you go. So it's Tales of the Teen Titans. All right. This is a book that is synonymous with DC Legends 13th, correct?
Yep.
So it started off as a Brave and the Bold book, I believe, when it was Robin, Aqualad, and Wonder Girl teamed up. They got a little bit of a run in the 60s. Didn't last very long. Got knocked on the head. Ended up coming back as this. 13th, do you want to take up the mantle from here for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Just to speak quickly on what you just said, the Teen Titans were basically a team of sidekicks of the world's most popular heroes in DC Comics. And they eventually had their run ended. But then they got, just like the X-Men, kind of a new direction with new characters, new creators. And this, when it first came out, you know, people are like, oh, look, you know, it's Robin. Everybody knew Robin. So Dick Grayson Robin. So at least there was some familiarity there. And then with Donna Troy. But when you look at the rest of the group, you're like, okay. But as in Teen Titan lore progresses, it was really taking off. And you know, what we just spoke about with the X-Men and the Teen Titans, you're talking about early 80s to mid 80s, solid. These were the top two titles. You could not go wrong easily. I mean, they were selling, it was selling like water. But like the Dark Phoenix, where we may think that it's the greatest thing maybe Claremont has ever done, arguably. You could say the same thing with Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Was this the pinnacle of their work? Was a Judas contract?
All right. Okay. Before we
at
get
the time.
before we get into that argument, let's give out some credits. So, written by Marv Wolfman, art by George Perez, inks by Dick Giordano, colors by Adriana Roy. Right. Over this series, there are 4 issues to the Judas contract. There were 3 different letters. So if you've got John Costanza, you've got Todd Klein, and you've got Ben Oder. I think Ben Oder's the guy that pulls double duty and does two issues. The others just get 1 each. So, Bud, you think this isn't the best of Wolfman?
No.
Okay.
You know, I mean, okay, it's Crisis. I mean, Crisis, the 12-issue limited series. Wolfman and Perez did Crisis, which was the DC book in the mid '80s.
Well, pinnacle of their work for the title.
It seems like we have a bone of contention.
Well, I think it's no. I'm not gonna belittle their work on Titans because, like I said before, Titans got me buying more DC books than any other book, and that includes Crisis.
Okay.
But at the time, when I was running around trying to get every issue of Crisis to fill my collection before I was even thinking about getting the Judas contract or any other Titans stories. So I think, I think scope of story, Wolfman and Perez's Crisis is the top.
Right.
But I think Judas contract is close second.
Okay. Cool. So 13th, Judas contract. What's it about? What's the 411?
The ultimate betrayal on several fronts.
No.
As the title would suggest.
Wait,
So,
who's that?
Yeah.
The only thing missing is fishnets. What's up with that?
Well, you know what? The kind of on the bottom of her legs. I'm all right with that. That's cool. It's fine. Dear me. What a great way to start a book. All right. So, sorry, 13th. I was distracted a little bit there.
Understandable. Yeah, so the ultimate betrayal, and on several fronts. And what I mean by that is, to this point, Tara Markov, or Tara, as she was better known, kind of infiltrated the Teen Titans and befriended them all, to the point where she was in a relationship with the Changeling at the time. So, if that's what you want to call it, but either way, she was in. And she was basically doing reconnaissance for none other than Deathstroke the Terminator, Slade Wilson. And Slade Wilson, for the readers of the title back then, was bad news, and they had seen him very early in the run. And, he was contracted by Hive, a criminal organization, to capture or kill the Titans. And he had not forgotten about that, especially since one of his children had died in an attempt to fulfill that contract as well in the Ravager. But you fast forward now, you're talking about over 40 issues later, and or a few years, and then Tara Markov successfully infiltrates the Titans. Now, to the readers who was watching this character, this part, when the Judas contract came out, it may have come as a surprise. I love how the series opens up with surveillance pictures, looking at behavior, workout patterns, you name it. Everything was looked at. So I loved how they just started off with dissecting a day in the life of the Teen Titans. And you're actually gaining exclusive access through the eyes of Tara Markov, obviously feeding the info to Deathstroke. So this was like, wait, what is happening here? How can the good guys, like, what's going on? Who's behind this? And why is she doing that? And, again, this all centers around a contract that Deathstroke had on the Titans, but the Titans were not the only ones betrayed, right? Ultimately, he was betrayed by his other living son and ex-wife. So this series had a lot. It was phenomenal art, phenomenal writing. There's several highlights in here, several historical moments where Dick Grayson, who was sort of retired from the superhero gig, at least for a little while, he ditches the Robin outfit and becomes his own man in Nightwing. But simultaneously, Slade Wilson's living son, Jericho, is introduced. So this is significant for a number of reasons. And obviously Jericho, later on, you'll see him in the Crisis. Yeah, it's very, very big moments in comic book history here. And Tara's pretty much revealed to the Titans that it was me all along that was spying on you. I've been working with Slade Wilson. I really don't care. I wanted to kill you all along. She had she really hated Raven, because Raven, as an empath, sensed hatred within her. So that's highlighted several times. But the shock on the rest of the Titans, the depictions on that by Perez are just legendary. And remember too, like the X-Men, this is a group of heroes who were very, very young, very, very inexperienced, being led by someone who had experience. You could throw Donna Troy in there too with experience, but they had excellent mentors. But this group was still kind of, this is like at the point where they were really gelling well, at least on a personal level. But experiences, like traumatic experiences, was something that fairly, I don't want to say fairly new, but they just didn't have a lot on their resume with. But yeah, so this is big moments in comic book history, not just for the Titans, but Tara Markov obviously killed off, spoiler alert. And then
what am I going to, you guys in spoilers? Oh man.
Yeah. What am I, like almost 40 years later? So, but Deathstroke too, a lot of this was significant as well on the Deathstroke side, because this is the first time readers really got to know everything about Slade Wilson's background, how he was in the military, how he met his ex-wife, how he met Wintergreen and whatnot. So exceptional books to have in your collection. There's only 4 parts, so if you can get the originals, that would be great. But this is reprinted in paperbacks, trades, and whatnot. So,
well, I know for all those people living in the northeast of England, I know where you can get parts 1 and 2, no problem. A little shop in Redcar has them in back issue format. They are reader copies. They are, I mean, and seriously, reader copies. I know because I picked up the first appearance of Nightwing from there. It was a reader copy. And if you want to talk about spending money or making money, this is a reader copy, and I flipped it on eBay, and it was like £15 for a reader copy. The cover was chipped. Honestly, I'd say it's a CGC 4, if not a 3.5, and still sold for £14.
Yeah, it's a significant book. I mean, you know, he ditched the Robin getup, and you really don't see him pick that up again. This is the beginning of Nightwing, and that's just the way it's been, more or less, right? Because he's taken up the mantle of Batman. But Nightwing, I remember back then where people were like, did you see what happened? You know, like we had Robin and then there's no more Robin. What do you mean there's no more Robin? Well, he's got this new outfit. He's in Teen Titans. Look at him. He looks a little older, right? Again, with DC progression. And then you still see another Robin later on, but they're like, who the hell is that? And that, you know, we spoke about Jason Todd at length last show. But this is Nightwing now. This is like the definitive stamp on, I am not Batman. I am not Robin. I am a Teen Titan to the end. And I'm with these guys ride or die.
I like the panels I've got there. This shows Dick Grayson being full detective mode.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not
that
just
whole
about
issue. That whole issue.
Yeah, it's not just about his acrobatics or his action stuff. You know, he is in detective mode all the way through. He's kind of using his head. He's having to think about it, and so on and so forth. There is a seedy side to this book, and I think we'd kind of be remiss in. Oh, look, fishnets. We'd kind of be remiss in kind of talking about this. There is a seedy side to this book.
Yeah.
There is a relationship between Deathstroke and Tara. And Tara is, at least in my eyes, not of age. Am I right? Am I the only person who thinks?
Well, they specifically say in the final part that she's barely 16.
So you know, there is, I don't know if that's a progressive thing or if that just tries to show the level of subterfuge that Deathstroke was willing to go to. I don't know, but in the recent animated movie, it's still in there. So for some people, it might be an uncomfortable read. We've got to say it because, you know, it's in there. But what made you want to buy this? What made you buy this book then? Because Professor, you're a die-in-the-wool Marvel fan. What was it about this book that got you revigorated about DC Comics?
So definitely George Perez's art at the beginning, because I was familiar with George Perez from the Avengers, and when I saw a familiar artwork, and I think it was maybe not Judas contract, but earlier Teen Titans issues with Robin and Kid Flash and the whole sidekick thing. I was on board with that. I was like, oh, the sidekick team, and then seeing like 13 was just saying progression, right? So you see Dick stop being Robin and become Nightwing, and I just want to say too, like he became Nightwing and never looked back. Like at some point, if this was Marvel, he would have been Nightwing for like 6 months, and then he would have been back as Robin, right? And here he's Nightwing now, and they cast a new Robin with Jason and moved on. And to me, that when I first got my hands on these Titans issues, this was probably 3, 4, or 5 years after the fact, and I was like, wow, I'm not used to seeing this in comics where the hero takes on a new identity and it sticks.
It makes you wonder if Bucky had lived, would he have ditched the Bucky outfit and become another? Oh, wait a minute.
Well, and he did like 25 years later. So, but here we get a first appearance of Nightwing, first appearance of Jericho, the origin of Deathstroke. That's why this issue's up there, right?
Right.
This is a key issue if there was ever a key issue for many characters. The Titans are largely absent in the third part. They're all captured, right? So this is a heavy Deathstroke origin story, and this actually was my favorite part of the 4-parter because you got into Deathstroke's head a little bit. But yeah, going back and reading this, and I didn't think twice about it 40 years ago when I read this book, but this storyline really suffers because of that relationship, because now it is that's really, when you read about it, that's the first thing you take away is how young is Tara in this. And because obviously Deathstroke is not a young man, and Tara is definitely younger than Jericho, his own son, his youngest son. So it was, to me, and I've read interviews with Perez and Wolfman about Judas contract and about the pedophile relationship. That's really kind of what it is. And when they wrote this book, they didn't think about that either. They wanted to go that extra mile to show how grown up Tara was and how actually evil that she was, and that they knew that she was going to be evil. That's why they went through the whole thing of, oh, you're under my control, and she's just like, nope, and they give her the cigarette.
Yeah, she's a bad girl, she's smoking.
Smoke. And that was, they really went that extra mile in this book to kind of really vilify her or turn her around and make you really think she's bad. And that and even where those moments where Deathstroke says she sought me out, she seduced me, really, was, and not saying that absolves Deathstroke of that, but to me it is kind of shows you where Wolfman and Perez's heads were at when they were doing that. They really kind of wanted to make sure that you knew that Tara was really kind of corrupted and not some kind of innocent Girl Scout that was taken advantage of. She was the one taking advantage of him, which today doesn't fly. But 40 years ago, okay.
Yeah, you've got to, and before, and we've said this before, casting our today's societal eye over this book is going to cause some uncomfortableness. Did it cause such of a stir back then? For wrong reasons or right reasons? You know what? No, it didn't. It didn't impact anybody.
Deathstroke was on a mission, and when he debuted, he failed in a way, and it cost him his son. When Tara comes around, she infiltrated a popular team in DC Comics, and she was pretty much a means to an end for Deathstroke and the Hive. So they were all in cahoots, and they were like, how are we going to get through to these guys and destroy them completely? And, without any doubt. But Tara, it's amazing how she went from a young hero that joined the Titans to someone who was just completely, out of it, vengeful, very hateful, evil, to the point where she wanted to kill everybody. So this was someone who had infiltrated the Titans and lived with them and got to know them better, and still wanted to kill them, and even more so. Like you guys said, they spared no expense in showing that. And Deathstroke's, I guess, the coordinator of all this, but he's also no slouch. And they felt that this was the best way to get to the new Teen Titans, separate them, conquer them, and eventually kill them. But unfortunately, Tara, it didn't end well for her.
Right then. So, the big question. Which series was better back then? Was it the Uncanny X-Men, specifically the Dark Phoenix Saga, or was it Tales of the Teen Titans, specifically the Judas contract? I have my opinion. I'd be interested in yours. Professor, we'll start with you first.
You're gonna hate me, but I'm of two minds, really, when it comes to
it. Go on then.
It's a split decision. It's a split decision.
Phoenix Force, what have you done with Bud?
Yeah.
I'm a gigantic Claremont fan when it comes to X-Men. I think that the continuity and the history that he built was unequaled over 17 years from any other creator, maybe aside from Lee Kirby. I think that Claremont created more universe building on the mutant side, specifically the Dark Phoenix. That was the foundation for just about everything that came afterwards. And then on the flip side, even though I love John Byrne's artwork, I love him on Fantastic Four, I love him on X-Men, I love him on everything that he ever did for Marvel. I think that his artwork could be repetitive, especially in facial structure. So when it comes to whose art do I like looking at better, I love looking at George Perez's artwork more than I like looking at John Byrne's, because Perez was every character that he drew was unique, and it looked unique and stayed unique. Each character, you look at Changeling, you look at Raven, you look at Robin. You can't look at really a lot of any other character that Perez draws and say, oh yeah, that Superman character looks like someone else Perez drew. But you can do that with Byrne. You can over the course of years, you can say, hey, his Mr. Fantastic looks a lot like someone else, some other character, just different hairstyle. And so for that reason, for the artwork, I'm going to give it to Perez on Titans. Beautiful stuff. They're both beautiful, but it's like picking one of your kids. Do you love more? So it's Perez on art and Claremont on writing. And that's, I have to do a split decision.
All right, fair enough. Fair shout. 13th.
Well, it depends on the perspective, right? If you're looking at it from the creator's aspect, then yeah, I'll agree with Bud. However, from a story perspective, and then also, going back and, when you read these comic books, it really does take you back. I was just a kid, and I love both titles, but the X-Men is going to be my pick overall, and I'll explain why. The X-Men, you remember, like we just said earlier, from 94, a giant size X-Men 1, and then they picked up from issue 94 and whatnot. There was a big buzz in town. We got new X-Men. They're back. The title's back. It's going to be great. Issue 101 hits. That's just a few issues after 94. Here's the Phoenix. What's this?
That's genius.
But think about that, right? So you got a new character, a new direction. The Phoenix comes in there. Things really start taking off for that title. And then you have the Phoenix Saga. And then you have the Dark Phoenix Saga. Like, you just could not get enough X-Men. And I think from a story perspective, it really broadened the horizons for the readers as far as, look how many characters are in here. There's new characters. They're expanding. They're not just in the mansion anymore. The mansion's not getting invaded. They go into space. There's other alien races out there. The Kree get involved. The Shi'ar Empire, the Imperial Guard, which is Marvel's answer to the Legion of Superheroes. Let's call it for what it is. There's everything thrown into this big pot in the X-Men that it just ended with the death of the Phoenix. But the title didn't end there. There was life after. There was the aftermath. And that just lived on and on and on. To me, really, the Phoenix Saga is the genesis of many, many X-Men stories that followed afterwards. Now, for the new Teen Titans, I absolutely love everything about Deathstroke, Slade Wilson. And that's what gravitated me to the title early on. But then also later when this came out, I'm like, okay, he's back. And now you got my attention. And then you get to see the development. I did like Tara when she joined the team. I was like, okay, you got to abandon new characters, but now you have there's someone new in there. How's this going to work? What's the dynamic going to be like? Wally and Wally West, Kid Flash at the time, and then Dick Grayson, Robin left the team. That changed things. But then this all came to a head here in the Judas contract. So from a story perspective, this is phenomenal. Do I consider it legendary for all the reasons we mentioned before? Absolutely. But this has been mined. However, I feel like the Dark Phoenix Saga has been mined way more than the Judas contract ever has been. And that's just my thing. You can't go wrong with either one. But if I had to pick the Dark Phoenix Saga, no doubt.
So for me, the question is, which one do I enjoy rereading the most?
Mm-hmm.
Simple as. All right. On one hand, you've got the introduction of Nightwing. You've got Deathstroke. You've got Jericho. On the other hand, you've got a swathe of new characters which have huge impact on the Marvel Universe. You've got Kitty Pryde.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Emma Frost. You've got the Hellfire Club. You've got Dazzler. You can all laugh at Dazzler, but man, she had her own comic book series for a while, and it lasted quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a member of the X-Men later on. For me, I like the soap opera of the X-Men. I've got to be honest. I find it enjoyable. I find it fun. The images are better. I've never been a huge George Perez fan, and I've said that 13. How long have you known me? 13 years. Yes.
Yes, pretty much.
And have I ever said any different about George Perez?
No.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge Perez fan. So for me, it's X-Men every time, which surprises me a little bit because I'm a DC guy, but there you go. Of course, you don't have to listen to us. What do we know? We're just a bunch of old-timers talking about comic books. Why don't you check out the trade paperbacks? Because to be fair, that's pretty much where you're going to find these books, unless you live in Redcar in the Northeast. So go on.
I don't think that we should pick. I think you should read both of them.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
So pick them. Don't listen to us. Go pick them. Pick them both up. Have a watch. The Dark Phoenix Saga is reasonably well adapted in the X-Men cartoon, which you can pick up on Disney Plus in the US and in the UK. I say it's reasonably. It's great. It's not great, but it has the main points, I guess.
It's also dismally shown in a couple of movies.
Tell me about it. And of course, you've got the Judas contract in the Teen Titans animated movie as well, if cartoons are more your thing. Check out the trades. Make up your own mind. All we're saying is both books are fantastic. Go check them out. Both are probably the pinnacles of some really good best-selling comics from back in the day. So there you go. Right, gents. Yeah. That's us for another week. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing who gets the books. We'll get them packaged up, ready to go. And we'll announce the winner on the next show, because obviously national postage and all that, we've got to get around the countries and so on and so forth. All right. So I'll be in touch with the winner after that, so we can get you deets to get the books over to you. Okay.
Titanically excellent.
And on that note, don't forget to check out the UCPM for all your other favorite shows, including Professor.
The No Prize Podcast, all about Marvel Comics.
And of course, you've got TDC, where you get all your DC knowledge and fun and games with our new co-host, Matthew, who's a barrel of laughs, very energetic. Okay, excellent. All right, guys, this is Johnny the Machine Hughes, as always, saying adios.